kick this one off today with Wesley Ringle. How we doing, man?
Wesley David.
Wesley David. I messed that up. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think that was on
That's my
the schedule.
no.
I was just checking. Wesley David.
No, it's okay. It's my last name. That's fine. It's my
Which
full.
one, David or Ringle?
What's up?
Which is your last name, David?
Ringle is my last name.
Ah, okay. But you go by Wesley David. Okay.
For the band project, artist project thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you let everybody know who you are and like what that artist project is, and then we'll just jump right into it.
I don't know who I am. There's no way to answer that question. That's really the problem. Yeah, no, I'm a singer-songwriter. I've lifelong songwriter and fan of all things music and rock and roll, and I've been a piano bar entertainer for a long time. And yeah, I made an album during the pandemic, and I had kind of a crazy life and upbringing, and wrote about that. I wrote about the pandemic, and wrote about all my misgivings about social media and tech and stuff that, you know, it's guaranteed to have a huge following. I'm sure people are just gonna eat it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's pretty much the story, I guess.
Gotcha, man. So the project that you're working on right now is basically a lot of what you've gone through in your life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I wrote new songs. I wrote almost all new songs for the album,
Okay.
which was kind of a change for me. I challenged myself to get back into writing and to try to make it a routine. I'm kind of I don't know if are you a writer yourself or anything like that, or
I had this realization the other day that I enjoy writing, but I'm not a writer, because when I talk to actual writers, I'm like, yep, that's not me. I don't have that much of a natural like predisposition for it as actual writers. So
yeah. I kind of feel like that about like writing. The only thing I think I'm halfway good at is like songwriting or lyrics and stuff like that. But
okay.
Yeah, no, I've been usually the kind of writer where it's just like if the impulse hits me, then I'll write. And you know, sometimes that well dries up as you get older, I think. So, you know, it was kind of few and far between for a while, and then I challenged myself to just do it and do it on a daily basis and make it intentional. And for the most part, it worked. I got a little lazy, but I'm proud of what I came up with. What ended up on the album.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, we'll circle back around to the album, but yeah, let's get into your upbringing and what got you on the life path that you're on.
Well, like one of your guests recently, Jennifer Torres. Yeah, I was raised in Jehovah's Witnesses, so it's it's basically a Bible cult. I grew up in New Jersey, and then we moved to Pennsylvania when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like I don't even know where to start with that stuff. But I mean, a lot of my life was lived, you know, in this one way as like a Christian missionary, basically.
Okay.
Missionary. Usually you think of that as like going to like another country, but for Jehovah's Witnesses, they do that, and they also do it like locally wherever you live. Mm-hmm. So I was a local missionary, and you know, that's a lot of your time and your life. A lot of kids homeschool in Jehovah's Witnesses. I homeschooled in part. I went to regular school in part, and you know, you're living, you know, one kind of life where you're really like expecting the end of the world very soon. Like you're expecting the apocalypse to come soon. So you're making life decisions based on that. When you get married, who you marry, whether or not to go to college, whether or not to sell your home. Jehovah's Witnesses and other similar groups are like, you know, expecting the end like any day now.
Yeah.
So it's a strange way to grow up. You kind of you're growing up with that as the horizon of your expectations, you know, and like, well, you know, what am I going to do when I'm 20 or 25? Well, it'll be after the rapture by then. So your whole thinking is along these lines. And then when I got out, which is its own fucked up story. But when I got out, then the aftermath is like, oh my gosh, like you're seeing the world with new eyes, and it's just like, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's not as extreme perhaps, but the show Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, I don't know if you've seen that on Netflix. She gets out of she's in like a little family commune, and they get out of like a nuclear bunker. They're expecting the end of the world, and they get rescued from a nuclear like bunker. Yeah. And they open their eyes, and it's like, oh, the world is still here. It hasn't ended. And they start like dating and like, you know, they're like New York City or wherever. But it's somewhat like that. I mean, somewhat like seeing the world, you know, without the horizon, or without the bedrock of that very, very specific religious overtone, you know.
Yeah, it sounds very anxious. Like, it sounds like a very anxious way to live, like always expecting the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Many years of therapy later, I'd be rich right now if not for my shrink. How much money I've spent on shrinks, so, you know.
Yeah, that should be able to write that up.
Right.
So you were actually like born into this. Like, this isn't something that like your parents or family decided to join like once you were a certain age. It's something that you grew up in.
Yeah, I was born to it with my sister. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. When you think back to those times, because one of the things that I talked about with Jen on our podcast was the cognitive dissonance factor of the whole thing. Sure. Like, you know, kind of feeling like something's not right here, but I'm still gonna, like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been doing. Like, when did you start to notice that coming up?
Do you mean like when I was a kid, or when I was in the church?
Yeah, when you were in the church growing up.
That was my late teens, but I mean, before that, I was a pretty obnoxious kid, I think. I was kind of like, I had this like weird double life. I was like, you know, like total attention whore, class clown in school, but then also very guilty about it. You grow up with a lot of guilt. Yeah, it's I guess that's shared across some religions. Like if you're you know, stereotypically like Catholic, or actually have Jewish heritage, so there's Jewish guilt and stuff like that. But yeah, no, you have a lot of guilt. So that to come around and answer your question, I mean, it was in my late teens. I mean, it was thanks to you know, I'm in my meat and potatoes of my 30s. So it was with the dawn of the internet that I was a curious kid, and I was pretty intellectual, and I was angry a lot. And so the internet and chat forums, and some books which I found through the chat forums. Okay. So I owe, you know, my current trajectory in life, I really owe to the internet. Like, the internet's like boom in the mid, you know, past AIM, you know. That's the younger listeners are gonna really just like, they've already tuned out.
Days, man. When I saw that they were discontinuing that, I was like, oh man, I know. Days.
I love that. Yeah.
That's how you knew your friends got home drunk. Like they were all right. Yeah. Their away message was just didn't make any sense. You're like, all right, they made it.
Yeah. I think some services like Slack, have you ever tried Slack, the email? It's almost like AIM. It's just like more text. But
I think I've joined that before.
It's almost exactly the same as AIM. But anyway.
Where the hell were we?
The 90s. We were talking about the 90s.
Something with your when you were in your teens and everything that you were starting to notice. You were an angry teen, and
I think a lot of kids feel this way if you are in a very like tight-knit religious church or organization or everything. You feel conflicted because you have all the normal teenage desires and your hormones and everything else, but then there's this unbelievably strict like protocol and belief system also
Yeah.
And you don't want to disobey God, and you don't want to die, and you're always being coached, and you go to church 3 or 4 times a week, and it's pretty intense.
Wow.
In some ways, Jehovah's Witnesses are a little less intense than, like, there's like a spectrum of intensity for groups, I think. So there's somewhere maybe in the middle. I've certainly met people where they've had it a lot worse, or like they're living in like literally like a commune or something like totally fucked up. Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, some kids go to school, so it's a little more, maybe a little less like crazy, but it's still crazy on the spectrum of crazy. Let's put it that way.
I think it's safe to say each person's experience is subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Man, when you were starting to think about like breaking out and like going a different direction, what was going on in your life at the time? Like, what do you remember about that time frame and like what you were going through?
I was 19, and I had actually like committed to the missionary work that Jehovah's Witnesses do. I was like, I almost like worked myself into a place where I'd become pretty intellectual. Like I was doing like, also thanks to the internet, like some scholarly stuff about the Bible, and I was learning how to speak Greek and read Greek and like this whole thing with the Bible. And I was out preaching a lot, and I was expecting possibly to get married to this girl who was in part of the organization. I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I still had this side of myself though that was angry and that was a musician, and that, like realized that, anything I wanted to do with music was a non-starter if I, it's like it's either God or music. So there's that conflict too.
Yeah.
And yeah, I stumbled, thanks to the internet, I stumbled on this guy's writings, his one book. His name is Greg Stafford. And this book, actually, I have it right here, actually saved my life. Like, amazing. He was part of the group, and he was in a position of leadership. And he wrote all about the group's history and secret teachings and cover-ups and crazy stuff. And so that led me kind of out of the rabbit hole, I guess, to learn more and to, decide what I really believed. So, and then I tried to get my family out and some of my friends out. It was this crazy period of about a year that it was just, it was so much. Yeah. I was going to church, like I was going to, the Jehovah's Witnesses call it Kingdom Hall. But I was going to the Kingdom Hall, and I was like a spy for 6 to 8 months, because I was going and I was like putting on a good face. Like I believed everything, but in the back of my mind, I was having all these thoughts and realizations and knowledge about what the Watchtower Society had done and child molestation cover-ups and pretty serious shit. Yeah. So definitely a weird experience.
Yeah. Sure. What was it like talking with other people that you were trying to get out? Because I've from seeing like different documentaries and even like talking with people that have gone through an experience like this, it's varied, but it seems like a lot of people are hesitant to go along with breaking out of that world because it is so controlled.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and the penalties are extreme for if you leave the church. They can be. I mean, like, you're oftentimes families. It's not just Jehovah's Witnesses, other groups too, where families, extended families will shun you, or they won't see you or talk with you after you leave.
Yeah.
So I mean, the consequences can be pretty severe. But
yeah,
I had a couple of friends who I was able to, kind of like send almost in this direction. Like I was able to give a book or two to somebody. A couple friends ended up doing the same thing as me. A couple did not. A couple I've reconnected with since, which has been like a wonderful experience. And my immediate family also did eventually end up leaving the church also.
Wow.
So it was like kind of like 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's intense. I can see on your face, and with the tree background, like you're taking it in. And you talked to Jen too. I mean, I heard her podcast. I know what she went through is nuts. So
yeah, and I talked to another guest, Shauna, that she was in Mormons,
Okay. Yeah.
and yeah, it's unfortunate some of the shit that happens with people that are just wanting to question things, like that doesn't make sense, like, and you're just looking for support, but if you don't like blindly just go with the flow, it's like you said, you get shunned. Yeah.
Yeah.
The support system is then taken away just like that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, what was it all about then?
Yeah, it's crazy. What, I don't know if this would be a left turn or not for the conversation. I think that, you know, cults are a very, or if there's any rules or whatever, but I mean, I think cults are a very, very extreme example of, you know, oftentimes more normal human behavior and thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you look into, you know, trends in society, and I wouldn't call them cults, but I would say that there are similarities, because people like having agreement. And if people feel threatened that you're not agreeing with them or agreeing with them enough, then they might, you know, shun you, or they might, you know, push you away, or they might not want to be friends with you. I think that's I'm sure that's always normal, but I feel like it's horribly amplified right now in the age we're living in.
I mean, it's critical, and we're looking for something to, you know, that we can agree upon, and
yeah,
whatever we think during crazy times, it's like, you know, searching out people that have that like-minded thing, and I think we're seeing a lot of that show up.
And I understand that this is right. This is not a normal year.
No.
It doesn't need to be said so.
But then, like, I'm looking after this year, I'm like looking back, and I'm like, have any of these, like, what the fuck is normal anymore? You know,
Yeah.
It's just like, really, like, when we're peeling, and then we might make a really hard left. We're like peeling back the layers of like society, and like we're seeing everything that's being shown on the surface right now. Like, what the fuck is normal? Do we want normal? Like, because everything that I feel like is getting categorized in the quote unquote normal thing, a normal bucket, is just a massive just oversight.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You know, maybe it's almost cliche at this point to bring up. I mean, like, they talk about the shrinking middle. I don't know if that's only a USA phenomenon, or maybe if that's happening in most of the rest of the world too, the developed world. But it depends on what we mean by normal. But I mean, I do think we're trending towards an age where one can just be in one's hyper specialized space and get validation from that. That's not necessarily all bad, but you do wonder if there's a value in the normal, but in the middle somewhere, where there is agreement and even push and pull, but there's like a common shared space, you know?
Yeah, well, I think there would naturally be a balance. You know, I don't think that everybody out there wants to do this like specific, like nuanced thing from whatever, like, artistic or creative standpoint that you're thinking of. Somebody else might just want something simple, and I don't think that's bad. And I think we would naturally see, if the more that you support each other, it's like we wouldn't have a surplus of like ninjas and ballerinas and nobody doing work in the world. Like, there's still going to be people that want to be doctors and nurses and lawyers and shit like that, you know. And it's just like, just let the people that want to do that, and the other people that want to do other shit, as long as they're not hurting anybody.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of value to being a ninja too. It'd be nice if that was an optional profession. I would have chosen that over musician, but maybe, I'm not sure. Right, I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna shut this window. For those of you at home, I'm shutting my window because my neighbors are very loud. Apologize. Okay. That was very satisfying.
And we're back.
Yes, and we're back.
And that's a good point to bring it back, because I do have a question. So, what happens when you actually leave? Do you just stop going?
Yeah, you stop going. I ended up writing a letter. I don't know if it was ever received, but I think I was 20 or 21. I wrote a letter when they call it a disassociation. So that's like the worst of the worst level. So I just wanted to be the most extreme motherfucker. No, I'm kidding, but
I'm out. I will see you never.
Hopefully you can edit that. Yeah, no, I that the letter doesn't matter. I mean, you pretty much just stop going, and then you're out on your own. And so it was a strange time. I was very lucky. I made new friends slowly but surely. I went to college, something I was not planning on doing. So I feel like everything in my life has been oddly like too late, but also at the right time. Like I'm a little older than I would want to be. Like even doing this, like I went to college a little bit later. I was like always the older student, but it just seems like I've been like just either a little older, or a little younger than everybody in my life all the time. But I mean, I was planning on getting married and waiting for the apocalypse. So, you know, that was the life plan.
That was the life plan. Oh my God. Oh shit. Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, but here's what's funny. Like to some extent, a lot of religious, when we might say more, normally religious people, Catholics, or whether you follow Islam or Judaism or whatever, a lot of more normal religious people have kind of a conception of, either the afterlife or that, if you're Christian, that, one day, maybe there's going to be, Jesus is coming back. That is a thing. But in cults, it's like even more amplified. It's like even more. It's like, well, it's like any day now, and like you go sell your house, and
yeah, because I was raised Christian, and I remember the whole like the rapture talk, but it was never like beaten to our heads.
It's not like it's coming on Tuesdays, so like get your tent ready, stock up on like survival gear and candy bars.
It's like it's probably gonna happen at some point, and you just don't want to be left when it does happen. And it was like, all right, okay,
right. It's more of like a background thing somehow, even if you believe it.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I feel it. What about you? I don't know if is this see, this is like my therapy. So Tom, I'd love to hear if you would, I don't know, anything about how you started the podcast, or are you in San Diego right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys getting the same, even in LA, we're getting these lovely plumes of smoke from the wildfires in NorCal. You guys getting all that, or some of it?
It's not like we got some the other day. I think because the fires in Alpine. Alpine's not too far away from me. But man, I've seen some of the photos up in like NorCal and like some of the other. Dude, it looks like the fucking apocalypse. Like talking about apocalyptic events. Just like looking at the sky, like it's horrible, man. Like just. It sucks every time you see, because it's just like, there's going to be a lot of people that come back to like ashes where their homes were, and it's like all the, the animals and like the vegetation that's going to come down. Like, it's just, it's a lot of destruction.
Yeah. It's messed up. I have a close friend who, her family lives in Santa Rosa, and they had to evacuate because of the fire. We're getting like the plumes here in Long Beach in LA. We're getting the clouds. It's not as bad as the Bay Area, but we're getting ash. We're getting like the huge fog clouds of the fire. It's good. Yeah. Now this is a total downer, man. Everyone's tuned out. This is just totally depressing. All the subjects are.
How do we bring it back?
Yeah. I don't know. There's an election coming up.
Oh, we can't. You want to bring it back with the election talk?
We're going to have one old white guy or one other old white guy to be president. So those are our choices.
Yeah. Geez, it's like, seen this happen quite a bit throughout history. Man, it's how have you been feeling about like just where you're at in life right now lately?
I feel good. I feel very focused. I have like two sides. I'm like either hyper competitive, or extremely sensitive. um, it's pretty much me. So I feel very focused. I decided I was going to do this. I decided last year, after the last incarnation of my band pretty much fizzled out, I decided I wanted to do this. I knew I needed to make like a pivot, and I really wanted to tell my story, and I wanted to just, the control freak in me, just do it myself and have a solo project. So I feel good about that. I feel very excited, actually. I feel pretty optimistic that whatever audience would enjoy it, it'll get to. Nice. I feel pretty excited. It's been tough though. The pandemic was like, it was lonely. I was also like Groundhog Day for me. I had the same routine, the same walk almost every single day.
Yeah.
I would record, go for my long walks, and then come back and do more recording. And it was very isolating. I haven't seen my best friend and my kid nephew I haven't seen in 6.5 months because of all this. I don't know. It's been, but most people are in the same boat, you know?
Well, I don't know if most people are.
Some
are all
people.
different boats right now, man. You know, it's the way that it's affecting everybody throughout the country. It's,
yeah.
I feel fortunate for what I have at this time in my life.
That's great.
And like, that's, you know.
Do you have any family who's been affected or by COVID directly, or?
I've had a couple friends that have got it, but they were okay. I know somebody whose dad passed from it. I've actually talked to somebody else who's, I know a few people have been affected by it. So it's
right.
It's not like it's not real, you know. It's the shit is happening, and it's fucking up, you know. It's fucking up people's lives, man. Like, it's like, it is as divisive as the talk is right now. It almost feels like everything is like a pressure cooker, and everybody, I don't know if it's already exploded or if it's about to explode or what. But it just feels like people are so just afraid and angry at the same time that they're unwilling to tap into their humanity. And that's the part right now that has me the most concerned, because we need humanity. We need more connection and less divisiveness. And I feel like with the upcoming election, it's just we gotta turn our fucking TVs off, put our phones away, like, stop like buying into the divisiveness. Cause I noticed if I'm scrolling and I see like a few videos and it's like, this is happening, that's happening, blah, 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 blah. And it, like, you start to feel like, oh man, like, nothing's going to get better and everything's going to get shitty and there's nothing we can do and fuck everybody. And it's just like this downward spiral of shit, but it doesn't get us anywhere. You know, all it does is break us apart even more. And then when we see people, it's like, we think about what we just watched on our phones and then we're like, oh, these the people that are crazy? And it's like, we're all going around each other, like, in like, just really hesitant to even be like, I hope we're not going to yell at each other, you know? And it's just like, I really feel like at the end of the day, everybody just wants to just be cool with one another, but it's so divisive and it's so mob mentality and so tribal right now.
Terrible.
That, you know, I hope that more people stop for a second and think.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. I'm totally agreed. Yeah, I think there are some best case and worst case scenarios probably upcoming, but I mean, we'll have to explain to future generations this year. I mean, between the pandemic, which shut down the country and most of the world, took a lot of lives, the election, Trump, wildfires, protests, riots in LA and Long Beach. We've had curfews. I mean, and the riots were, depending on where you are, I mean, I guess on the issues, but justifiable anger. People are angry for very real, important reasons. There's a lot of terrible shit happening. What's happening in Portland? It seems like everything is just, you're like a pressure cooker is the right way to say it. Yeah. But I wonder. I guess there's like I'm like, I can be like dour and have like my kind of existentialist side, but I'm also like pretty like happy-go-lucky for the most part. And I think that people, tell me if you like this cautiously optimistic point of view, but I think people and young people get bored so quickly. This is like a shitty way to put it, but it might just become old hat, maybe in a good, like in a year or 2 or 3, maybe it'd be like enough. Like it's more fun to be partying with somebody, even if you don't agree with them on a lot of stuff. It's just more fun than it is to like hate them. I might just become like, as every generation kind of reinvents the wheel a little bit, like maybe we'll kind of grow out of it. That's a very optimistic view on it, but
it's a very optimistic view.
Yeah. Yeah. The tough thing is that for somebody who's pretty ingrained in a semi like mob mentality, whether it's online or whatever, it's challenging to like show them that like this is what you're doing, even if we can talk about the content or whatever, but like what we might agree or disagree on, but like what you're doing is like almost denying that we have a shared, like we're both human beings. We look like hair and arms and legs, and we're both like on this planet together. There's like almost like an implicit denial, like we could just get over this and be friendly,
Yeah, it and therein lies the enigma of humans, because we're that close. We really are that close.
Yeah.
Because when you sit down and when you have people from what they think are opposing sides, because at the end of the day, all these ideas are just made up. They're just made up. That's it. We just have a lot of motherfuckers that subscribe to them. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's a collective belief, and that's why some of these things work. And over time, the collective belief has branched off because the collective belief doesn't benefit everybody. So you have to branch the fuck off every once in a while. Uh-huh. But then it's just like, if a collective belief looks at other beliefs that branch off and they're just like, you can't do that.
Right.
And they want to demonize those other people that just want to be able to have their own set of beliefs. Like, where
do we meet? Like, where do we find common ground and also feel good about it? Like, feel like we have a clean conscience about it.
Pizza.
I like pizza.
You can find common ground with anybody on pizza.
That's true. Yeah. My dad always, I'm not sure why, or if you'll see this, my dad always compared pizza to sex and said that it's always good. Even when it's bad, it's good. That was all the sex education I got as a child.
That was it right there? Okay.
Yeah, it was a whole ballgame.
It's just like there's any combination of anything you can put on there. You can make it gluten-free. You can make it vegan.
Yeah.
Make it meat lovers. Like, you'll be able to find some sort of common ground in pizza. And like, because I've actually been thinking about like, how the hell do you actually find any sort of like place to start with somebody that's just like, blah, 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 blah. These are all the facts that I have. Right. And you're just like, well, if I just spew back a lot of facts, then right. All we're doing is spewing facts back and forth. We're getting nowhere. That does nothing. So it's just like, if you get a bunch of, if you notice one of these people are going off the handles, just ask them what kind of pizza they like and just go from there.
I might disagree with you. I people who like fruit on pizza, I can't get along with. If you're putting like apple slices on pizza, then we're not gonna be friends.
Well, what about a dessert pizza though?
That almost doesn't count as pizza, I don't think, though. Unless there's cheese on it.
See?
I guess you can have cheeseless pizza.
This is where we get to talk about it,
It's a philosophical conversation. Like, if there's no cheese, is it still pizza? If it's just bread and sauce.
What makes a pizza pizza?
Right. It's a tough one.
That is tough.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it's hard to believe we're at this point. I hold out some hope that we'll get ourselves out of it, because we're going down a path that's like eventually just like unsustainable. I have a friend who was he was one of the youngest heads of state in New Jersey, and we went to school together, and we have this conversation a lot that, you know, it's almost as if it's unsustainable, because there was a time in this country where we got things done. We built the highway system. Like, we think of just like major achievements, even when the parties disagree, they still like came together to make like major achievements in this country. And it seems like whatever one side wants to do something, it's almost like the other side's like instant recognition is that it's an opportunity to do the opposite or say the opposite. And we've got to find a way to, maybe it'll take a few generations, but we have to find a way to like undo that somehow. It's not that they have to agree about everything, and they won't, but there has to be a way to like do things again. Like we sent people to the moon. We built the highway system. We went to war against Hitler. I mean, we've done major important things in this country because we had consensus, you know?
So with that thought, is what we're going for as humans just to build stuff?
No, but I think if you're saying that because like a question about what the role of government is, or what it's
well, it's like, you know, we can look at the amazingness of what we build, but
right.
for instance, like, you know, a recent podcast I did with the head of the city council here in San Diego,
Yes.
we were talking about one of those massive highways that was built over a neighborhood, a lower income neighborhood, and adds to a lot of issues there. So it's like, what are we looking for as human beings? Like, are we looking to expand? Are we really looking to go to the moon when we can't even like take care of the people that are underneath these massive highways that we're building?
Right. I don't know. That's a tough one. I think I don't know what the role of government should be as far as that stuff. I don't necessarily think it's the role of government, or it should be the role of government to say like what direction society should go in. I would prefer that to be up to
well,
people.
because I feel like they've been trying to they've been shaping it for so long to fit the mold that benefits them.
Right.
And we're seeing what is happening when, like, you know, one of the things about the internet is we can see what's going on with everybody around the world, and everybody around the world, I think, is starting to see like, oh man, the same bullshit that my government's doing, this government's doing.
Right.
Okay. So if all these governments are doing the same bullshit, and there's a lot more of us than there are of them, maybe we can start to shape this. And I wonder how much of what's going on right now is a revolution, because through any sort of revolution, there is a lot of horrible shit that happens. And
sure.
It sucks, because like at the end of the day, humans haven't been around here that long. We have not been around here that long, and I think we want to think that we're a little bit more evolved than what we are, but when a little bit of panic sets in and we're fighting each other at the store for toilet paper, are we really that evolved?
No. I almost spent $50 on bamboo toilet paper from Japan or South Korea. My goodness. South Korea.
And for the environment, man.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It was only 6 rolls too. $50 for 6 rolls, but you know, I was panicking. So, yeah, man. No, I agree. I don't know. It's we're on a somewhat unsustainable path. I mean, I think that what's funny is that enough people are fed up about it. Like, enough people are, you know, in our country, like enough people are, you know, fed up with the two-party system.
Yeah.
Enough people are, if the poll that just came out, you know, half the country sees Biden and Trump as like mentally unfit to be president.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so weird. Yeah. You think we can do better than this, but.
And that's the fucking shit show about the whole thing. Like, when you really think about that, because I think it's probably more than just 50%.
Yeah.
But because when you look at these guys, if you really sat down and looked at some of the shit they said and have done, and oh man, they're just delirious sometimes. It's like, oh wow, like this is what we have to vote for. This is really what we have to vote for. Two dudes in their 70s.
Right.
Like if you have to be at least 35 to be a president, there's got to be a cutoff.
Yeah.
There has got to be a freaking cutoff. Like you shouldn't be able to be a president at 70.
Yeah, that is old. That is very.
God, man. Like,
we're going to be accused of being ageist, but yeah, I mean that is older for sure. I mean.
yeah, but if on the opposite side, if you're saying somebody who's 33 couldn't do a better job than one of these two right now, like then that to me is even that's crazy too. Like there's so much to it, man. And I think it just comes down, like, these guys are props. They're just props. They don't do anything. It's us. It's like the people. Like I really think it's what it is. It's just and we're trying to figure it out. And it's really hard to figure out because the systems and the collective brainwashing that's been going on all these years is really good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
And the thing that you get told, I'm pretty far from like a conspiracy guy, but I mean, the thing that you get told is often it's either not the whole truth, or it's not even much of the truth, or the real reasons for a government action or something that's happening in the Middle East, or there are other reasons. There's a lot of other stuff going on, you know? Yeah. The other, I often wonder, so for my background, and also being like a musician, and your ego is involved. I mean, you're putting yourself out there, and you there's some like hole in me that like enjoys the attention of performing and being theatrical and all that shit. So, but I wonder in our system, and I do wonder if it's like the hole in democratic systems, that somebody who gets elected, while ostensibly they're serving the public, and I'm sure a lot of people, you know, do have good intentions and probably do good things. Nevertheless, they're always like going for re-election, and there's always I think there's like the incentives, you know, the incentive ostensibly to help people, and then the incentive for self and for gain, and to eventually maybe leave office and sit on the board of a company. Those incentives are crossed, and there's so much money in our political system that you almost can't like disentangle it. So it's just like, it's a whole like bullshit machine. And I think we could, I mean, of course it could be redesigned to be better, but that in and of itself takes political will. So that probably, the change probably won't come from politicians. It'll probably come from grassroots organizing, and yes, eventually politicians but from like, you know, like normal folks who get into office, from, you know, hopefully just enough people being fed up and just saying that we've reached the point where nothing productive is happening. You know, we're only doing.
Yeah, and thankfully, like, I do feel there is hope. You know, I got to reach back out to him. So there's a person that I'm going to be hopefully doing an upcoming podcast with, who is a conservative, but he's running for like a city council type position up in Temecula, and he's running without being attached to a party. And he's doing, and I talked to him the other day, and it was just like, oh my God, a person with conservative values, and somebody like myself who, like, if you got to put me in a bucket, you know, it's probably going to be liberal, you know, on a lot of the things. And it's just like, we just sat there and we just had an awesome talk. Like, and it's just like, man, this can happen. You can support conservatives with conservative values, and conservatives can support liberals with liberal values. It doesn't mean you have to switch. It doesn't mean that you have to end up doing the thing that the other person is doing. It's just let them do their thing. Again, as long as you're not hurting somebody, like, why the fuck do you care?
Could you imagine if we didn't have the boxes of the parties?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, if somebody, I mean, somebody could be an independent. This would be my, how I lean politically. My dream would be like somebody who is a little more fiscally conservative and a little more socially liberal, and there'd be a pick of the litter of candidates where they're each interesting and they each have maybe their unique set of ideas or values, but it wouldn't have to be tied to a party the same way that if you grow up in a crazy religion, you're tied to that religious group.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're running as president, you should have to pick somebody from the opposite party as your vice president. I think if you're going,
I love that.
running as a Democrat, you should be forced to pick a Republican as your running mate and vice versa.
Right.
You motherfuckers got to work together.
Right. I like that idea. I mean,
sit you down and treat like children, because that's how you're acting. Like, sit down and fucking figure it out for the people that are making sure that you have your cushy positions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one fucked up thing, man. I feel like I hope your editing is very good to make this all seem happier than it is. But
shit. This is all wrong.
Okay. That's not good.
It's beautiful.
No, what was I about to say? Oh yeah. Well, you know what's annoying about one of many things that is annoying about like the presidential election and even like the higher level elections is that we choose. We choose between the candidates. We do, but I mean the candidates are weeded out through this whole process, and there's so much money in that process. And like when you get to the final stage, it's like, well, you get this or this, but in reality, your local, I'm as guilty as anybody, but your local government, your town, your school board, that's where you can make a difference. You can make a immediate impact. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing a lot more people start to understand that. Right. And it's because I have been talking to some people that are, they're talking the same way. It's just like, ooh, how can I get them more involved in like the local level and stuff like that? And it's like, these are good things that are starting to happen, because like this change that is coming is and is happening right now, I believe is going to take a long time. It's a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, the generational thing, man. Like, we can figure out how to bridge the gap between generations, because it's like you see it everywhere. It's just like night shift and day shift at a job. Like they'll clap like, oh, night shift didn't set us up and all this. Right. But it's just like anytime like there's a different group, it's just like you look at that other group and you're like, fuck you. And it's just like, if we could stop that mentality and just be like, well, what can we learn from each other and what can we teach each other?
Yeah, dude, you well encapsulated it. Yeah, and it's on both sides of the political aisle, and it's also generational. It's all that stuff.
Yeah, and to each generation's credit, and this is not my idea. I've seen it talked about before. Is each generation is the most progressive generation to come. It's just how it works. It's
right,
and the sooner that we figure out how to work together between generations, the easier it's going to be. It's like, man, I don't feel like I'm being ageist here. If somebody feels like I'm being ageist, check me on it. But wouldn't the older generation want the younger generation to do a bunch of shit so they didn't have to? Like, you've lived a lot of life. Like, relax. Like, let the young people just do their support them, like positively support them, and just like watch their imagination grow. Watch how they can make your life easier as well, and you could even connect with them even better because of it. Like, this is how this shit can work, but it's oh man, it's gonna be messy as fuck trying to get there.
It's messy as fuck because I understand it. People older than us, if they feel that like their values are being kicked to the curb, or they don't share common values with younger people. Yeah. I don't know if that's, I guess that's probably a product of age. Might be also a product of how quickly things are changing with society and technology, and the world now is like almost unrecognizable compared to the world 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, man. So, I look back at my childhood and I look to where it is now, and I'm just like, man, a lot has changed very quickly.
Yeah, a lot has changed very quickly. Somebody said something funny on Instagram, like if I had I'm gonna butcher it. I wish I had a filter when I was on chat rooms back in the 90s or something. Oh no, I am butchering it. But the idea that like, like you like instantaneously say whatever you want, and there's no like, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to have a filter on it. You don't have to check your worst instincts or whatever.
Yeah.
they're just out there.
Yeah. There with the internet and how it shapes society, there's always, it's the unfortunate side of things. There's drawbacks to the positives as well. I think a lot of people do look at the internet as a negative thing, just because that's where a lot of negativity is shared.
Right.
Because they think of the internet as a negative place, because it's like Facebook, Instagram, you're like scrolling through, especially during an election year, it's a lot of shit that's being shared.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, that's another thing. I feel like, man, if we just only focused on positivity and solutions and stuff like that, then it's the algorithms on social media that promote what's popular. So if we can make optimism, positivity, mindfulness, solutions, working together popular, then like that's what's going to get shown.
Oh yeah, no, social. It's like the news. It's almost like there's some good stuff. There's plenty of good stuff, but the news, like, it's like titillating because how many people were killed in the war and the fire or whatever. Like, it's like what you tune in for. So yeah, man. I mean I agree with you. It's two things. One occurred to me in a humorous way that, I mean, we're only in our fucking 30s, but I mean, don't you feel like, A, this like makes us old to like be like talking about somehow, and B, maybe it's kind of like boring. It sucks, but it's like what we're saying is almost like basic and we're kind of redundant. But I feel like it's not, like it's not like the sexy so like, hey, can't we all get along and be nice to each other? But that's kind of where we're at.
It does feel like that's where I'm at these days, though. Like, I'm looking at this like, oh my God, like I'm a freaking 2020 hippie. Like, I do feel like that sometimes.
Right.
I do see how easy it is, though, because just from some of the people that have come into my life over the years, just seeing how easy it is to support other people. You don't always have to agree on every single thing, but just like supporting one another. I just, with all the wars over the years and all the fighting and the way that things have gone, and the people that have been in charge have been in charge of all the war, and that just so happens to be men. And it is one of those things where I don't think it has to be that. I really don't think it has to be that, and I just think we need to work better together.
Yeah, I agree. No, there should be a hiatus. There should be like a 1-year hiatus where only women can be in positions of power, just like an experiment.
You might as well try something, man. But like,
you got a penis, you're out. Get the hell out.
What is it, the Prime Minister of New Zealand? Like with this whole COVID thing, it's just like, they were fine. Like, they did really well with everything, and it just seemed like the leadership over there was just wonderful, and it's just this idea that men know what's best and women can't lead or something like that. Like, I don't even know why that's a thing that's out there. It's just like, and I don't even know why it's a thing that's like one person has to do it and the other person has to do it. It's like, again, fucking work together. Like, this doesn't have to be like an all or nothing thing. Like, we can take the best parts of two things and find the best possible solution.
You know what's funny though? I agree with you, and I think it can be done. But something has to shift, maybe in the design of some social media stuff, or I don't pretend to have the answers, but it's almost like right now we're talking. There's like who knows what we agree on or disagree on, but there's like but there's like a basic like goodwill to it. It's almost like that kind of like just kind of basic, almost like trust or something doesn't exist in a kind of a broad sense on social media, unless you're in a specific forum or specific hashtag very specific group, then there's trust for that group.
Yeah.
But there's no like broad fabric of trust. Almost, we need to intentionally build some of that. So like we're not gonna stop disagreeing. And disagreement is okay. It can be fun to. I love a great argument, man. So, but the key is more like, you know, if you're online, especially somebody you don't know, you know, how can you? Yeah, I mean, if it's your buddy, it's one thing. But like, if it's somebody you don't know, if they're from another country, or whatever, they might be 13, and who knows like who you're talking to, and some, you know, like Taco Lover 865 on
Right.
Twitter or whatever. You don't really know much about him, so you know, to disagree, but maybe even have a sense of humor about it, or just not have a knee-jerk reaction where you're going to name call that person, because you will. We're always in like a balance of agreeing and disagreeing with each other and individualizing ourselves and all that stuff. So
yeah, and this is where it's going to descend into even more chaos with when it comes to disagreeing. It's just like even that is nuanced, because like there's some people that will be like, well, that's just my opinion, and it's like, well, your opinion just, you're telling me that you're okay with that person dying. Like, so there's a different level of like your opinion being okay with somebody being killed unjustly, and your opinion on who you're attracted to.
yeah.
You know, I think those two things, you can't take the same approach of like, well, it's just my opinion and expect it to go over easy. Like, I'm not
Just my opinion. Black people shouldn't have the right to vote. Ha ha ha.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
just like, you know, like, so for somebody to say that and
Yeah.
to not even have a thought of like all the pain and suffering over the years,
Right.
that would take way too long to even get into. That is just like, yeah, it's
But that is so on the one
troll. Like, it's
Yeah.
I think it comes down to, are you being a troll, or are you genuinely trying to
Right.
like get to know what that other person is saying?
I mean, I think the best that we could hope for is like getting into. I almost think of social media like going to a baseball game or a football game, and for the most part, people are there to have a good time. There's kids there. You know, there's some knuckleheads. I've gone to a lot of Philadelphia Eagles games. I'm from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, then Pennsylvania. So, you know, fans at the Eagles games are rather vociferous. Be a nice way of saying it. So I mean, but we should work to where like they're always going to be those bad actors or those knuckleheads, but that's fine. But that's part of free speech also, I believe.
Yeah.
But I mean, we can make that so where that is so out of the ordinary, or so like, you know, almost it should be embarrassing for that person. Because the norm is, even when we're disagreeing, even passionately disagreeing, we're not descending to that next level of like being ready to freaking kill each other or something.
Yeah, when it gets to like the personal insults and stuff like that, it's just like, oh man, now you like, now we gotta try to figure out how to get back. You know,
Yeah.
That's where you talk about pizza.
Yeah.
But let's start bringing it back to music. And
what kind of music do you like, man? I'll put you on the spot. It's my podcast now.
Okay. You want to know what music I'm listening to right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Lo-fi hip hop is one that I enjoy. It just putting on a channel and just hitting play, because it is just no words. I like the beats. It's just great.
There's no words?
No. It's
really?
And you can you can YouTube it. There's like playlists on like Apple Music and stuff like that too. Just lo-fi hip hop.
Okay.
And yeah, on YouTube they have like live streams that are going 24/7. So it's just like better elevator music, I guess.
Nice. That's almost like ambient hip hop.
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really nice, man.
Nice.
Outside of that, lately I've been listening to Soul, SOL. I don't know if he's a Seattle-based rapper.
Cool.
Mac Miller, Kid Cudi, Jesse Reyes, Taylor Bennett. Those are pretty much the main ones that I have on like a
Okay.
rotation. You know, just some stuff from Brittany Howard in there every once in a while, and like some other random songs that I'm just like. Some of my playlists are very confusing. They don't make any sense. It's all over the place.
Are you a Spotify person or Apple Music or
Apple Music?
Okay.
Yeah.
I do Apple Music too.
Yeah.
I transitioned from Spotify. I don't know why, but yeah, that's cool. I'll confess and what the audience will probably find the most boring segment. I don't think I know. Are those all hip hop artists or are those lo-fi hip hop artists? Or?
Yeah, hip hop or R&B, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or no, yeah, mostly hip hop, I think. Yeah.
I'm a '90s hip hop guy. That's and I wasn't allowed to listen to it as a kid, so I feel like I missed like the core years of exposure to hip hop. Only as an adult was I able to really get into it. But the '90s old school hip hop is my favorite, like Dre and
Snoop
and those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Doggy Style album.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
In piano bars, man,
Forgot about Dre.
Is the few? Oh yeah, forgot about Dre. Hell yeah.
At the piano bar, have you guys played that there before?
Yeah. Yep. At the one, there was one in Long Beach. Unfortunately, it got sold. But yeah, when we like break out, anytime you break out hip hop, it's just like it's gonna be it's the now and the future. I feel like for a lot of like cover bands and live entertainment, like you gotta have some good hip hop in there.
Can you explain to everybody what the piano bar is? I got to explain because we were talking about this the other day before this was scheduled, and I definitely got to enjoy a piano bar when I was working at Starbucks back in Columbus.
Yeah, in Columbus, right? Yeah, that was the Big Bang.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, we talked. The owner and the main player, I know, and is friends with he's the his daughter is married to a close friend of mine, who's a piano player in Arizona. So it's like all like kind of a weird scene like across the country, like a lot of cities where you know each other and not a lot of people do it. So it's like I feel it's like a fun thing to go to in a city, go to a piano bar. And yeah, I mean I kind of like fell into it after college. I was looking for a job. I met up with some people who I met on Craigslist. This is in Arizona. And we met at the piano bar and we were just hanging out. And he was like, "Oh, you know music? You should do this, man." And I was looking at it. I was like, maybe I should do this. This is kind of fun. I was only really a guitar player. So anyway, one audition and eventually two auditions, but eventually I weaseled my way in and 10 years later, I'm still kind of doing it. So,
how was it playing in because you actually played in some of the bars, right?
I played in a lot in Arizona, in Missouri, Kansas City, and Branson.
Yeah. So it's and you had the dueling pianos and then just random people with instruments and just
yeah.
You guys took suggestions from the crowd too, I'm sure.
Yeah, take requests.
Yeah. Dude, it was a treat, man. It's a lot of fun. Like it's very interactive. It's a very different scene than like the normal like club scene, you know.
It's great. I'll tell you what I appreciate. Up in San Francisco, there's a bar I play at, and San Francisco obviously very very liberal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all good. It's wonderful though. Like the bar is a melting pot of people from all backgrounds, like cultures, other countries. San Francisco is very cosmopolitan.
Mm-hmm.
So there's European travelers and Japanese and folks from everywhere, South America, and like everyone comes together to sing like Sweet Caroline or Don't Stop Believin' or fucking big. I like Big Butts and all that stuff. So I'm a huge dork. So yeah, no, that's actually like nice about it. It's like people from all walks of life just like singing along and having a good time.
Yeah. Did that have any influence on what you're doing now, or do you think you would have done this regardless?
The piano bar, I love performing. Eventually the travel has just been really exhausting. So, and I've been doing original music. I mean, the plan was always like, my heart is in my songs and like original music. So, I've been in and out of bands, mostly failed bands like all other LA musicians. And Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it each step of the way, but debt and kind of shitty health problems sort of slowed me down at times. And so I was just doing the piano thing, and living and making money and paying off student debt and all that stuff. So I guess I know. I mean, I've definitely been saturated. I've done probably thousands of piano shows. I mean, so many piano shows. So I've been kind of saturated with it. And yeah, I mean, the pandemic, I don't know if this is answering your question. The pandemic kind of accelerated things for me. I was hoping to do an original project this year, but suddenly there was no more piano work because of the virus. So
yeah,
it was like my schedule got accelerated.
Yeah. Well, if people want to find your work and see what you got going on and follow you along on social media and all that fun stuff, how do they find you?
At Wesley David Music on Instagram or wesleydavidmusic.com. I sound like Casey Kasem. I'm actually, if people go,
Pushed it up.
Yeah. I'm giving away, if you follow my Instagram, I'm giving away 4 signed records actually this month. So
Nice.
Head on over.
What's your music style?
It's good indie rock, indie pop rock, I guess. Kind of, I'm 90s inspired. I mean, I grew up with a lot of 90s alternative rock and singer-songwriter, Ben Folds and Radiohead and UK music, like Oasis and those kind of bands. That was what I was allowed to listen to, was more in that range. So that was definitely what inspired me. And also the Beatles and like a lot of, Beatles and The Who and a lot of classic rock bands and stuff.
Gotcha, man.
So, yeah, it's been fun. I'm actually playing. I'm playing one of the first live concerts in LA since the lockdown tomorrow, or whenever this airs. But
so you're playing on the 11th. This will definitely not be airing then. Yeah, that's interesting, man.
If I've been arrested by now, then whatever. Yeah, no, 9/11. A day when I was a Jehovah's Witness was like the scariest freaking day ever. But I've played a bunch of shows now on 9/11, piano shows.
Okay.
But this will be the first ever for my original music. So it's literally one of the first shows in LA since the lockdown.
Wow. How are they doing it? Or do they have like the whole like distance thing set up? And
yeah. Yeah, it's almost like they have the permit for just be outside, like almost on the street, but on their property.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's cool.
Well, that should be good, man. Like talking about being cooped up, I'm sure that'll feel liberating.
It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but it'll be fun.
How long has it been since you've done a show?
I've done a couple of piano shows, but for like original music, it's been, I don't know, a year and a half.
Okay. Do you get nervous before each show, or just does it depend on how long it's been between them?
The only times I don't get that nervous anymore. It's probably because I've performed so many times. I'm kind of a clown when I perform, so I'm like almost, I'm pretty used to it now. This doesn't really answer your question. The one time, sometimes I do get nervous is when for piano shows, we do shows for older folks in nursing homes. Mm-hmm. And I am always like terrified. They're so quiet, man. They're like people in their 80s or like, no, I'm not even trying to necessarily be funny, but like they're not on their phone. They're not texting. They're not even talking. They're just silent. Like they're expecting like a show, and that is terrifying.
I bet, man, because you're just like, oh man, you're really paying attention. Or,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. You're not getting that necessarily the feedback from a different crowd, I would think.
No, the bar crowds are easier. They're talking. There's more noise, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. when you're in those moments, do you feel like, does it feel weird the whole time, or is it something that just feels at the beginning and then you're just like, all right, I settled into it?
I settle into it. Yeah, I feel like it's like if you're, I don't know, playing like basketball or something, and once you make that first shot or you see the first like free throw go in, then you kind of settle into it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, man, I know we kind of went a few different directions with this one. But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on or bring up that we haven't really discussed today?
It's a good question. I don't know. We started talking about the election. Maybe that's
I think we did a good job of talking about the election.
all right, that's fair enough. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, we're all just taking it one day at a time, you know, so we're kind of all just hanging in there and waiting for the results of that whole thing and the vaccine, and ready to get back with some kind of normal life again. So
Yeah, new normal, whatever that would be.
I think it'll be a better normal. I think I'll end on this positive note. If you concur, have something to add to it. I do think that when you know, like tragedies can be opportunities. Like I think after I have some family on my father's side who were in the Holocaust. I mean, like after like you know, terrible tragedy. I mean, there is almost like a space for growth or for something, you know, new and better to come out of it. So I'm like, I don't know if that'll happen after the coronavirus, but we could hope that there'll be some kind of coming together thing after all this, or just like our collective excitement and collective, you know, exuberance to not have to wear a fucking mask anymore and to be able to see each other when we go grocery shopping or whatever. Like maybe that'll be a really positive thing and we'll feel good about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it is important to acknowledge that good does come after bad. Because it is a lot of doom and gloom right now, and frankly, it's for good reason. It's not like there's nothing going on. There's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of people suffering. There's a lot of people that are scared and afraid. But I do believe that we're heading in a better direction.
I think so too. I think there's an opportunity for that, and you know, we just gotta get there.
What are we gonna do with it? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, all right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this one up today, Wesley. Thank you very much for taking some time out to do this.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.
Had a good time chatting with you, and hope you enjoyed it, people. We are out
Very
of here.
much. I mean,